Hi everyone. Today I'd like to introduce my anvils and anvil-like objects from over the years. And I'll start with the earliest and work my way towards the present. As many of you might know, I live and work in Taiwan, my wife's country, but I'm American. So I've owned anvils in both countries. I've owned approximately 4 other anvils that you don't see here right now, but I will include those in pictures probably towards the end of this video. One of those 4 I still own, but it's in America. The other 3 I've since sold. This is the first anvil-like object I ever owned, which was here in Taiwan. It's nothing more than a block of steel which is about 6 inches long and it's 3.5 inches square. I had them drill a hole in it thinking that I probably needed that for punching and for other operations like that. But at that time, this was 20 years ago, I didn't have much of an understanding of blacksmithing, just a very keen interest. Moving on from this, there are some anvils that are not seen here, but like I said, I'll include in pictures. I moved back to America, and the first real anvil that I owned was a 100-pound Vulcan. And then after that Vulcan, I purchased a Nimba anvil, which was their 260-pound, I think it's called Centurion, which is really a top-quality anvil. It's a bridge-style anvil. And then after that, I sold that anvil, and I purchased their largest version, which is the, if I'm not mistaken, is called a Gladiator, which was a 450-pound anvil, which was really a pleasure to use. Upon moving back to Taiwan about maybe 5 years ago, the first thing that I purchased, blacksmithing related wise, was this swage block. I was searching for a suitable anvil but was having a hard time to find one, and these swage blocks are pretty ubiquitous here, but it's not very hard at all. It's cast and the carbon content of this is quite low, but I've used it and I still use it, and it serves its purpose. Next up for me was this beautiful Pettinghaus anvil. It's 35 kilo, which is approximately 77 pounds. I actually found this in my daily travels, and I didn't even know what kind of anvil it was, but I offered. It was sitting in a pile of metal scraps and junk outside of an automobile shop, and I offered the boss some money for it, not knowing what kind of anvil it was, just knowing that I needed to find a suitable anvil. And at first he didn't want to sell it, but then later he agreed, and I paid him what was probably the equivalent of about $125 for this. And when I got it home, it would have quite a bit of paint and stuff on it here, and I realized, wow, what a steal this was, being a Pettinghaus anvil. This anvil is top quality. And later I learned that he had a German friend, I think a friend who was a priest, and for some reason he brought this and some other metalworking tools over from Germany. So I was lucky enough to get it and put it to good use, and I still use this today, though this traditional style anvil is not my preferred style. I rarely use a horn, and I like to have a face wider than what this is. But this is absolutely a top quality anvil, and it's in beautiful shape. I'll move in here so you can see the Pettinghaus. Should be able to see that fairly clearly. And the face is just pristine. One other thing that I really like about this anvil is the hardy hole. It's a round, but on the top it has a star depression. So that's unique, and I've actually copied that to some extent in my own anvils that I later designed and had made, which I'll show you next. After using the Pettinghaus for a while, I felt I needed something different, And so I designed and had made a hornless anvil that weighed a little bit over 70 kilos, which approximately 154 pounds. That anvil is actually, I still own that, but it's in America right now. But I'll include, like I said, a picture towards the end of this video of that anvil. The anvil you see here represents the anvil that I'm currently using and that you see me using in YouTube videos. This is a combination of anvil and swage block. I love this anvil. It's machined from a solid block of 4145 steel and is heat treated completely, so you can use any side, any face. I'll turn it here so you can see the swage depressions. So here you can see half rounds. Here's where the pritchel hole comes out. It's dead flat on all surfaces. So if you wanted to use it upside down, that's perfectly fine. Here's a V swage depression. And then this recess here is for the hardy hole, so the shank can pass through. And actually this shelf is intentional because you wouldn't have to, for some hardy tools, you don't have to shoulder them. You can just let the shank rest here, but just make sure that you taper it a bit so it doesn't upset and become stuck in the hole. Really a pleasure to use this anvil. This anvil weighs approximately 39 kilos, or around about 85 pounds. The reason that I designed this is because I'd like to use an anvil with a wider face. So this is quite wide for its size. Also, I like an anvil that's tall, or what I mean by that is the majority of the mass is directly beneath the main working surface. This is my latest creation. Like the previous anvil, this is machined out of a solid block of 4145 steel. And the whole anvil is heat treated, so you can use any face, any side. It also has a swage, it also functions as a swage block. You can see the swage depressions clearly here. This recessed area is for the pritchel and hardy holes, so they can pass through. For this anvil, I decided to have 2 pritchel holes and a hardy hole put on the same side, in order to have this area as wide as possible on such a small anvil, with like I said before, a lot of mass, or the majority of the mass, directly beneath the main working surface. One pritchel hole is 13 millimeters, or about a ½ inch. The other is 9 millimeters. The hardy hole is 3/4 inch, or a little bit over 3/4 inch, at 19.5 millimeters. And like the Pettinghaus, it's drilled round, and then the top ½ inch has been milled square. So I'll come in and see if you can see that. I find that to be a useful type of a hardy hole. Every surface is dead flat. You'll see me using this anvil in future videos. This is the 70 kilo hornless anvil, the first anvil I designed. I actually heat treated it myself, which was a bit crazy. Still, it turned out well. Here is my first Nimba, and this is my first real smithy. On to my second 450-pound Nimba and second smithy in the US. If you look to the far left, you can see my old 100-pound Vulcan anvil. Thanks for watching.